So there are some inclusions that didn't make it to this update, which I'm pretty disappointed about, because if it had the newer steering wheel, the added comfort, it would have been a great car. This is the updated Haval H6, and it comes with new styling, a new selection of powertrains to pick from, and pricing is also cheaper compared with the pre-updated version. And I'm going to uncover everything that is good and bad, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit that bell. And let's get straight into the video. First, what is there to know before walking into a showroom? Well, this is a medium-sized SUV competing in a very competitive segment, as there are many different vehicles to pick from, including the Toyota RAV4, which is my personal favourite, but the H6 does start from around $35,000 drive away or thereabouts, and there are two different versions to pick from, with the option between petrol, this petrol hybrid version, and a plug-in hybrid. And this one I have here is in the Ultra specification with the hybrid powertrain and a price tag from $43,000 drive away. And in terms of options, you have 4 different colours to pick from, and along with 2 interior colour combinations. And in terms of ownership, warranty, servicing, running costs, everything you need to know has been listed on your screen. And now let's talk about the revised styling. So the grille has changed, including the Haval logo, new LED DRLs, and like on the pre-updated version, full automatic LED headlights, which also includes automatic high beam. And if we take a look at the side view, this version is sitting on a set of gloss black alloy wheels that are also wrapped around in hand-cooked tyres, and you also get plastic cladding across the wheel arches, extending down on that lower section, power folding mirrors, black roof rails, window frames. And if you step up to this Ultra version, you get things like dark tinted privacy glass from B-pillar to the back, and a giant panoramic glass sunroof, which can also open and close. And moving on to the rear design, in the middle section, you don't get a light bar like what was featured on the pre-updated version, so instead, restyled LED combination lights. You have GWM spelt out, and over on that right side, HEV badging to signify that this is the hybrid version, and down on that bottom section, plastic body cladding. And finally, let me know your feedback of what you think of the updated styling of the H6. Okay, the interior inside the updated Haval H6. Some of the key changes include a bigger 14.6 inch touchscreen. The gear selector has also been moved over on the top section, and that does free up space over in the center, replacing the horrible black plastic, and it also feels pretty good for the price point. The door slam feels solid, soft padding up the top here where you rest your elbow, over in the center section, working your way up the top. But on some surfaces, it does get a bit durable over on the top section when you look lower down on the glove box lid, down the bottom here on the bottom door sections and the speaker grills. But what I think is the biggest disappointment with this cabin is this pre-updated steering wheel, which not only looks ugly, but also feels horrible to grip onto. Yes, they have thickened up the rim, but here is an image of what we were meant to get, which is available in other markets around the world. The steering also offers both manual tilt and reach adjustment. The seats are finished off in synthetic leather, and as standard, 6-way power adjustment for the driver, but there isn't any under-thigh support, which was another inclusion we were meant to get. And as a result, the seats are pretty uncomfortable. You do get climate control integrated within the screen, and stepping up to this Ultra model grade, you get a heads-up display over the windscreen showing all of your vital information, an 8-speaker sound system which doesn't sound all that impressive, and for the driver, a seat memory function, lumbar support, and front row seat heating, ventilation, a heated steering wheel. Now, moving on to infotainment, the main menu is pretty straightforward. These are your main icons, and you can cycle between different menus over on the right hand side. There are some physical buttons for climate menus, buttons on the wheel, but overall the system itself is pretty confusing at times, setting the temperature and even adjusting the volume. You've got to slide this panel down, but you do get voice control with Siri integration, wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, AM, FM, DAB, Bluetooth, USB video, and if I go into the battery icon, this will take you into a dedicated energy consumption menu. And if I go into the car icon, this is going to go into the car's configuration between in-vehicle, outside, lights, different drive modes between eco, normal, sport and snow. And there's also a one pedal drive mode, and you can also adjust the energy recovery level and including the steering wheel modes. And down the bottom here, parking features, smart drive, other functions to play with. And if I press this button here, this is going to take you into the 360 camera, and the picture quality does look pretty impressive. And there are many different views, angles to choose from, different configurations, and this car also has the ability to self-park itself, and there's also a reverse tracking feature. And as standard, rear parking sensors, but it is worth noting that front sensors do come on this Ultra specification. But aside from that, you do get autonomous emergency braking, an auto dimming mirror, blind spot monitoring, a safe exit warning assist, adaptive cruise control, a lane departure warning, a lane keeping assistant, a driver fatigue monitoring system, speed sign recognition, and in front of the driver, a screen showing speed, your driver assistance, and over on the right hand side, you can configure the menus looking at fuel consumption, data, battery information, but you do need to hold this button down to cycle between menus, otherwise that is your volume. And what about storage? Down the bottom here, you've got this open section with two USB-A charging ports, a 12-volt socket, and over here, a decent sized glove box, which is overall pretty decent, a wireless phone charging pad, a little bit of storage, and two small cup holders that can fit a coffee cup. The center console is also pretty decent, and over on the top here, a sunglasses holder with vanity mirrors behind the sun visors. The door bins are quite small, but they can just fit a large water bottle. And climbing in and out is also pretty easy, being a mid-sized SUV. You also get a remote key, keyless entry, and push ignition down the bottom here. Here in the back with this seat set in my position, knee room, toe room, and headroom is pretty good. And because the floor section is almost flat, knee room, toe room, headroom is also great in the middle section. But it is worth pointing out that the door bins are quite small, and you cannot adjust these back seats forwards or backwards, recline them backwards or forwards like what you can do in some other rivals. But you do get map pockets, directional air vents, a USB-C and A port, wrap handles, LED lighting, a flip down armrest with two small cup holders, and for child seats, two ISOFIX points on the two outboard seats, and behind me, 3 top tether points. Let's now talk about boot space. You get an automatic power tailgate along with a kick down function, so if you have the key in your pocket, your hands full, you can swipe your foot underneath and the boot will open. And from what we can see back here, there is enough space for 2 large suitcases, a pram, and you can also drop down the second row seats to give yourself even more space. And on your screen are all the key dimensions between this hybrid version, the plug-in hybrid, and the normal petrol model. And over on the left hand side, LED lighting, a 12-volt socket, a cutaway section on both sides of this boot section. But it is worth pointing out, if you put back those rear seats, the seat belts do catch on, and there isn't any underfloor storage nor an adjustable boot floor like what you get on some of the other rivals. And it's also worth pointing out that there isn't a spare wheel, just a tyre repair kit. Before we go for a drive, let's cover off the powertrain. You get a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which alone develops 110 kilowatts, 230 newton meters of torque, but combined with the hybrid electric system, 179 kilowatts and 530 newton meters of torque, which is pretty powerful. And all that power is sent to the front through a dedicated hybrid transmission. And here is this car going from 0 to 100. Okay, the driving impressions inside the updated Haval H6. Over the bonnet, decent forward visibility, good side vision, decent side mirrors, and at the back, rear vision is okay, a little bit narrow, but you do get a fantastic 360 camera, and the definition does look pretty good for a car within this price range. There's also an electric gear selector up the top here, but you just got to make sure you put your seatbelt in to release the parking brake, because there isn't a physical button for the parking switch. And driving around town, you've got an electric steering setup with a turning circle radius from under 12 meters, so it is an easy car to live with day to day. The suspension does feel quite soft, especially at the front, and the hybrid system does feel pretty smooth even when the engine cuts in. This car does take off, but there is a 1 second delay and you get a bit of torque steer for the wheel, and you do lose a bit of traction. So the tyres aren't fantastic, and it would be better if this was all-wheel drive, and you cannot get all-wheel drive on the hybrid versions. That is only a $3,000 premium on the plug-in hybrid version, which is getting up there in terms of price point. But what does let this car down is gripping onto the steering wheel. It just feels horrible, and the ergonomics can be a bit clunky, and the seat comfort is pretty terrible. There isn't any under-fire support, so there are some inclusions that didn't make it to this update, which I'm pretty disappointed about, because if it had the newer steering wheel, the added comfort, it would have been a great car. And at higher speeds, you do hear a bit of wind noise coming into the cabin. The suspension, you do come across a bit of body roll, so this has been tuned for city driving. And in terms of driver assistance, setting the adaptive cruise control can be a little bit tricky with these buttons, and once you get that working, it does stick a little bit too far back behind the vehicle in front. The lane departure warning isn't that great either, and the self-steering function is a bit clunky. And what about efficiency? The non-hybrid version will get 7.4 litres per 100. This hybrid version, 5.2 litres per 100. I saw figures around 6.6 around the city, and driving around the countryside, that is floating above 7 litres. So it isn't class leading in terms of the hybrid tech, but it is still pretty efficient. So to finish off with a final conclusion, like I said, there are some compromises when it comes to driving, but you get what you pay for. It is cheap, and it is one of the more affordable medium-sized SUVs within the segment. But for the most part, it does drive particularly well. Just take one out for a test drive to see if it's right for you. But if you are into driving, the Kia Sportage is the best when it comes to dynamics, and the class leader in terms of hybrid technology, space, and a car that is going to hold its value very well, the Toyota RAV4, which is what I would choose. But let me know what you think. Would you choose this over a Toyota RAV4 or anything else? And do you own a Haval? Let me know your feedback in terms of ownership. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, because I've got plenty of reviews coming very soon. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.